Hello, everybody. Guess who's back? Like the Slim Shady, we're back again. I feel like it's been forever. And it was
I
only
know.
a week, but here we are.
It felt like 2 weeks, I reckon.
I know. Time is weird. I feel like time either feels really fast or then it slows down. And anyway, but you guys, we're back again. If you're new here, of course, my name is Bryce, and this is my friend and partner in crime, Paula from Inspired Healing. I'm about to say, I always
Empowered.
yoga. Okay, I always want to say empowered healing yoga, and I was like, no, don't say yoga, and then I said inspired. I don't know why I always want to say empowered healing yoga. Probably because yoga is you guys. I'm going to put our
It is
down below.
very empowering.
I'm a yoga person, so I always want to say that. I always want to say empowered healing yoga, and then I said inspired instead. Just there we go. That's that. Come on, brain work. Words are hard. So we are going to be talking about something that I think, I could probably do a 5-hour show on this. Don't worry, guys. We don't have time for a 5-hour show. Don't be like, oh shit, what did I sign up for?
Oh God.
And this is something that to me, I'm very, very passionate about, which is spinal health and we'll say the conspiracy around the spine. And so I text you about talking about this, and we've got a special little surprise for you guys at the end of this episode, so just hold on for a second. But Paula, just as somebody, I was kind of texting with you about this. What do you know about the spine and spirituality and the conspiracy behind the spine?
Well, to be honest, I don't really know a whole lot. I mean, all I know is a bit about the Kundalini energy, and that I know that a lot of people are trying to activate and have a Kundalini awakening because they believe that, that's the path. Oh, and the dogs start barking. Because that's the way that a lot of people believe that that's the way to enlightenment. And I've met different people that say that they've had a Kundalini awakening and things like that. I personally am a little bit intimidated by it. Sounds a little bit scary because some people I've heard that people go a bit nutty from it, and then obviously from talking to you and learning from you that it's not really real. But yeah, that's kind of mainly what I've kind of known. So I'm very excited to learn more about this today.
Well, I will say, so the spine is one of the most important mechanical, we'll say, is an antenna, right, in your body. And yes, with Kundalini does travel up the spine, but what we know now is that having an actual Kundalini awakening is not possible in third density. But that doesn't mean that it's not coming and that we can't prepare the spine for other spiritual. And I think what people are misunderstanding is that the spiritual significance of the spine isn't just Kundalini. Like there's so many other facilitating factors with the spine that go beyond Kundalini. The Kundalini awakening will happen mostly in like fifth density, which is we're in third. So we're building up. So even though the whole awakening process won't fully happen in this existence, doesn't mean that we still don't work on it in this existence. It's like learning your ABCs in kindergarten. Like if you're not going to learn how to read until like first or second grade, does not negate the fact that you start learning your ABCs in kindergarten, right? Before you start to learn how to put the letters together to make sentences. And then
make words. Yeah.
And then once you make the sentence, to understand, to have the mental capacity to make sense of the sentences. Like it's the same thing in spiritual. They're stepping stones to our own development, and each density is very, very vitally important. So third density is vitally important to the greater picture. They're just, the densities are just have different purposes. But I don't know, so this is kind of interesting. Let me first actually read a quote by Yogananda, who was one of the first guys that made yoga kind of popular in the Western world. If you've ever read an autobiography of a yogi, a lot of people have very profound experience reading that book. That's Yogananda. And he said, the spine is the highway to the infinite. Your own body is the temple of God. It is within your own self that God must be realized. So the spine is crucial to this. And everybody, you guys have heard me say this so many times, like your body is not your soul, your body is not your soul, your body is not your soul, but your body is the expression of your soul. So even though the body is not your soul, it's not permanent, it is the Shakti, the creation of the soul, for the lessons needed in order for the soul to refine itself. So that's why the body is one of the most, if not the most important tool that you have spiritually in this life. That's why he says the spine is the highway to the infinite. It's not the infinite, but it's the tool, it's the highway. And so I don't know, Paula, I was telling you yesterday, the reading dropped on Wednesday. There was a reading I did where the Cassiopaeans kind of hit on this fluid. Should we play? It's like an 8-minute segment. Should we play that now for our audience? And if you've already watched this, you can just move the cursor past it, guys. If not, I'll also tag the video down below. But let me go ahead and share screen quickly. So, because this kind of gives, you can kind of see the Cassiopaeans having to correct a little bit, but let's just, can you hear this, Paula? So God of Think says, older transcripts refer to a genetic alteration that causes truncated fluid flow. Is the fluid being referred to the cerebral spinal fluid? No. Well, then that eliminates the next question, which was a follow-up. What fluid flow is it? As yet unknown organic structure throughout the body carrying a different fluid other than blood or lymph that is related to light. Your ancestors glowed and transmitted light and power. And this is where we're going to get again into some of my stuff, my studies, and my job outside of YouTube, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Joe asked, was that related to the veins? Were they talking about blue veins or the light coming from them? Wasn't there some session about it? Laura says there was something about it. I think we were talking about dancing once, and they were talking about some kind of energy flow that came through the arms that allowed them to levitate. Yeah, that was the spear-headed Martas and stuff like that. Is that why, or by the means by which some people throughout history have been able to levitate because they had some genetic quirk that allowed the system to become operational? Answer, yes. Laura, I mean, just like some people can transmit healing power and so forth, so there's a whole other different thing that's going on in the body that people are not aware of. Is that because that fluid is something other than what we think of as fluid? It's more like energy, yeah, or more like, answer, difficult to explain since you don't have the concept. So this is the key here. All right, let's keep going. We'll talk about this in a minute. It's based on an unknown structure. A structure throughout the body that carries fluid or something like that, like a fluid. Is it because it's not exactly like a fluid as we know it? Answer, yes. Laura, is it something more like, let's say, a fourth density fluid? Answer, yes. Laura, and the structure itself is fourth density when it exists in the body? Answer, yes. And we have the potential for this if the DNA were to be upregulated. Yes. Okay. So are you saying when they said you don't have the right concept, so then she goes back and thinks about it, and she says, so we have the potential if this DNA were to be upregulated? Yes. So what is that telling you? Why are you waiting for a med bed? It's already in you. It's already there. Why are you waiting for a light body when it's already there? It's already there. Why do you think levitation is common in India? Why do you think all these siddhis, as they're called in the Yoga Sutras, the glowing of the body, seeing the auras, that's common in places like India, where for centuries now, they've understood culturally that you have to work on yourself. All these people, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but all these people sit around waiting for a med bed. That's so different than waiting for one of these, or waiting for a magic pill from the doctor to make you skinny. The med bed's the same. It's, you're giving your power away. You're allowing somebody else, and that is service to self. In the Yoga Sutras, it says there is effort that has to be made. You have to meet God halfway. You have to put effort. This is a structure that moves in the veins with the blood and the lymph system. What makes your blood pump in a healthy way? This is a Jeopardy question. What is it? What activity makes your blood pump in a healthy way? Exercise. Exercise. I'm going to stop it right there. I think that's kind of, I love that. I love that
I know, I love that too. I was actually listening to that in the car as I was driving just before we started to chat. I was like, oh my God, wow. Yeah, I love that.
And I think, Paula, we've talked about this before. And I was telling you before we started filming, I'm going to try my best to keep this on YT. So we might not be able to use some words. If you are watching this on RUMBLE, excuse the fact that we're having to talk around words, but that thus is the world we live in. And we all know, especially on this channel, the dangers from these. How many people do we know who've got herniated discs and they claim to be awake, but yet they're running to their doctor, I'll say allegedly for entertainment purposes only, YT, for their doctor to like give them one of these, steroid one of these,
Yep.
or taking or having operations instead of actually treating the spine the way it needs to be treated when that happens. Like so many truthers who claim to be awake think that having a herniated disc is somehow a malfunction. You guys, I've said this before. And my boyfriend was funny. He was like, I think if people actually knew your history, your physical history, your health history, people wouldn't be so embarrassed about the comments they've made to you about there's no excuse. I've had spinal surgery. Now, I know the average human people have 33 vertebrae. I have 34, which is very, very, very rare. And that is only found within people who are Rh negative. And it's only a small percentage of people within the Rh negative group that have it. Now, there's all sorts of different spiritual meanings behind. Usually it does signify somebody who has like shamanistic abilities. Usually people who have 34 do have a lot of paranormal stuff happen to them. That's Rh negative in general, but that's even a lot of people who have 34 vertebrae have reported massive abduction experiences. I don't have any abduction experiences that I remember, but what I've learned from the seas is that usually we don't remember them. And so that's a totally different topic, but I just want to put that out there in case you are somebody who has 34 vertebrae like me. You're not wrong for that. Like that's just a totally different karmic. It's not a different karmic path. It's just a different adjustment to your karmic tuning with your spine. And for me, in my situation, I feel like the 34 vertebrae is what has really forced me to pay attention to my spine, because my torso is not big enough to hold because it's basically like having an extra bone, right? Like, so when I was growing up, because my torso couldn't hold that all, I was having spinal problems as a child. And that led to surgery when I was 17. And what happened when I was 17 is because of the impact, I was losing feeling in my legs. It was impacting my nerves where they were testing. They waited a long time before they actually did an operation, but they would test my legs, behind my legs, to make sure that when I lost feeling behind my legs, that's when they took me in for an operation. Now, I don't blame my parents for doing this at the time. You know, when you do start to lose feelings in your legs or your limbs, that is concerning.
Pretty scary.
Yeah, especially for a 17-year-old kid. However, I think if they had known about exercise and spirituality, I think at 17, I probably could have done, I know, in my opinion, I could have done like a form of physical therapy to move the bones.
Right.
Which would have relieved instead of doing the surgery, because the surgery did cause tightness in the fascia. So I've had my fair share of back problems in this life, which I'm actually 100% grateful for. I know that sounds weird. In my early 20s, I could hardly get out of bed without help. I was like in an 80-year-old's body because my spine was so out of whack. And that is partially kind of why I started looking at exercise differently. It's more factors than that. It was kind of a bunch of stuff that forced me to really look at exercise as not just a way. Because I grew up with a mom, you know, Paula, you and I were both born in the 80s. We were born in a time of like jazzercise and low-fat diets. And, you know, I was constantly going with my mom to exercise classes. So I had my mother who exercised all the time, but she was exercising, and still to this day, she exercises for vanity purposes.
Yeah.
So for me growing up with like for a lot of people, exercise in the gym was either vanity or a sport. You were training for a sport, right?
Yeah.
So I was used to exercising, but I never viewed exercise as something that was not actually really at all about vanity, but really about unlocking spiritual growth. And over the years, and this is 19 years of work for me to really look at the body very differently. And in saying that, when we look at the body from a spiritual perspective, we are still looking at the anatomy, the basic anatomy, because the anatomy, the organs, the muscles, the bones, they're not like your colon, for example, isn't just a receptor for detoxing your body. It also is the home base of your psychic and your psyche and your emotional nervous system, right? Like when you get butterflies in your stomach, your liver isn't just an area to detox alcohol, it's also your anger. Like anger is stored in the liver.
Yeah.
Kidneys connect to the knees, which is fear of the future. So we are actually looking at the anatomy of the body and but seeing it in a multi-layered for a multi your organs and your bones have multi-purposes. They're not just one structural purpose. Does that make sense? Is there anything you want to add to that, Paula, with your line of work? Or
Yeah, I mean, like, oh, yeah, I was just going to say, like, back to like my mum, she wasn't such a big exerciser, but she would walk everywhere all the time, always walking, because she was very self-conscious about her weight as well. And she was a very funny eater. And I think I've picked up quite a lot of her eating habits, and just, I've never been a very big eater. I think I've managed to keep my weight down because I don't eat very much at a time. Like I'm a real grazer and just picker. And yeah, I think that's how I've managed to never gain a lot of weight. And whenever I have gained a lot of weight, straight away, I'm just like, I'm onto myself. And I'm just, it's almost like there's a certain point where I just won't allow myself to go any further. And that's coming from a fear of being big, I think. And that's definitely something that I'm trying to work on healing at the moment, because I'm like, well, why is this fear here? But yeah, but in terms of, yeah, I've kind of lost my train of thought now. We were talking about
exercise.
Yeah, and exercise and things like that. And from the spiritual perspective, well, I also have always done exercise mainly for vain reasons, and it's really you that has introduced me to this spiritual aspect. I mean, yeah, I've done yoga and stuff before, and Pilates and stuff, but I always did the pretty yoga, you know. I didn't really understand how important it was, and how important it is for activating the chakras, and how important it is when you do healing work, that it's really important to be clearing yourself and being like a clear vessel, not just on an energetic level, but also on a physical level, detoxing the body. And then also learning that being a Vata, predominantly Vata type, that detoxing and doing fasting is not very good. And I mean, every time I've tried to do fasting, I have just failed miserably. So understanding that exercise is enough to do the detoxing of the body has been incredibly powerful for me, because then I can just ease off having to fast because
Absolutely.
it's just, my body just doesn't cope. But yeah, in terms of like, I'm just very grateful to you for sharing this knowledge, because this has helped me immensely. Yeah, but I'll let you keep going.
Well, it's changed my life too, and that's what I want. You know,
Yeah,
I'm 42.
easy to understand.
I feel younger at 42 physically.
Yeah,
20,
I do too.
yeah. I think in my back, and at this point, you guys, my back, I have 5 herniated discs right now. Now, for me, and I've had people tell me that all the time, like, oh, I have a herniated disc, I can't do it. I'm like, that's the reason why you should do. Every time
Yeah.
your body hurts, okay, think about it this way. You have a bunch of children in your house that you're responsible, obviously, as an adult. You are responsible. You're their caregiver. You have to keep them alive. As a parent, as a babysitter, an aunt, whatever, your primary job as the only adult in the room with a bunch of children is to keep them alive. That is your primary obligation, is to make sure they're alive. Part of that is, let's say, feeding them. So if you got a bunch of kids in the room and they keep telling you, hey, I'm hungry, but they're annoying you, and so you don't feed them, you just put duct tape over their mouths to get them to shut. That's what you're doing to your body when your body hurts. instead of actually addressing the pain and actually looking at the pain and say, what can I do to redirect this energy? What are you trying to tell me? So like,
Yeah.
in my opinion, the more I think about it, Paula, is I don't think herniated disc are really that big of a deal because I have 5 of them and I don't have any back pain whatsoever.
Which is crazy. I know quite a few people who have sciatic nerve issues or
With that
disc
too, yeah.
issues, but I've not met someone that's had 5 at
5. And
once.
I've struggled with sciatic nerve pain a lot, and I know when we have, people will say, well, back a long time ago, we didn't herniate disc. I don't think that's true. I think herniated disc has been a problem since we've been on this planet
Existed.
because it's so
Yeah.
easy to herniate a disc. It's easy to slip a disc, just carrying something wrong. But I
Yeah.
think that the discs are supposed to be able to do that, to herniate easily, because that's communication with us.
Ah.
So whenever we have a herniated disc, and you'll feel it when you've got a herniated disc, it's painful. So instead of going and taking a numbing medication or one of these steroid, one of these, or having an operation, that's just putting duct tape over the mouth of the part of your body that's trying to communicate with you. Why not go, okay, I have a herniated disc, so that means that I need to redirect. My body is communicating with me to now redirect my energy.
Yeah.
Because even with mine, I mean, it's painful. When you have to work out or exercise with a herniated disc, it is going to be painful for a while before you realign your spine. But at this point, Paula, like at 42, it's been years since I've been to the doctor. I'm on no medications. I would never go to the doctor at this point for me, I would never do. For her, I would never do that with her because that's not helping the situation. That's only hurting it. And when we talk about this physically, we're also talking about this spiritually because again, I wrote some notes here. Your spine is your antenna into the quantum.
Which is so fascinating.
So we look at, a lot of people refer to the spine as the tree of life. If you look at the spine with the nerves shooting off the spine, it's like we're rooted down at the base of the spine and then it comes up. So if we have an antenna, for the kids, they might not remember antennas on TVs and cars, but like if an antenna is bent, it's not going to pick up the signal.
Yeah.
So what do? You go and you fix the antenna so it can pick up the signal again. Having a herniated disc is no different.
Right.
So when the disc is herniated, your body, thank God we have a nervous system so that you're aware that there's a bend. There's an obstacle in the spine. And so we go, okay, so now we've got to try to straighten that out again.
Yeah.
So
and through doing the right postures and the right exercises.
And I see herniated disc as actually a huge blessing because it's a way for our body to, sciatica pain. When the sciatica nerve is messed up, it's usually coming from the hips or the back. And that's really painful. I've dealt with that before myself. So has my boyfriend. But the minute we feel that pain, we're not rushing off to the doctor or making excuses. Actually, a couple of days ago, when we were driving back, he was driving and he moved his body. He goes, damn it. He goes, my sciatic is acting up. And he goes, I got to do, and the first thing he said is, I got to do some hip openers when we get home.
Right. Because of all the sitting from the driving. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky. I haven't really had any issues with my back, but what I have had issues with is my lower hip. So the kind of part where your leg joins to the hip. Yes, the ball socket. And it's like, it doesn't quite pop out. But what happens is if I sit cross-legged on the floor for too long, or if I sit down on a really low stool and my knee is up too high or something, when I stand up, I get back up. I can't actually stand. I can't put pressure on my leg because there's something going on there. And I put it down to when I was very little. So I was on the back of my sister's bike and she says, whatever you do, don't put your legs down. So I was like, I think I was like 3 or 4 at the time. So what do I do? Oh, I wonder what happens if I put my legs down. Well, I found out what happens. Your foot gets caught in the bike wheel. So yeah, trip to the hospital. That was fun. I had quite hurt my my left ankle quite badly. But basically, and then I think like over the years, and I've had issues with my knee. So my knee clicks Like
Yeah.
if so and then also having the issues in the hip, and so that has been a little bit of concern for me over the years, because I was like, oh, I wonder if that's an area that I would get arthritis or something in. But now that I've been learning so much about spirituality and exercise, I'm like, okay, this is a good thing. This is where I need to strengthen and work on that now. And I'm kind of drawn to and motivated to focus on making that stronger now, instead of being like, oh, this is an issue that I'm going to have to go to the doctor for, and I'm just going to have to
It's
have
just bad
surgery
luck
for.
and I can't
Yeah, it's
exercise.
just bad luck. Yeah,
So which side of the hip is it? Left, right?
it's my left.
So that's feminine. So what I would
Yeah.
say, this is just my perspective as someone, is that, yeah, you were a curious little girl, but also I think that was, if we were to look at a tarot card spread, that would have been a major arcana for you. That would have been something that your soul knew to do, because there's that left hip symbolizes some karma. Every part of your body symbolizes karma, right? And all karma is your work. And so little you put the foot down to trigger that response, so that big you could actually look at this and work on this and
my feminine energy.
and unpack it, right? So that's like,
that's interesting. And that's interesting that you say that, because I can be a little bit masculine in the sense of always having to be like a provider, and like financially, I always put a lot of pressure on myself, and I don't like being dependent on other people financially. It makes me very uncomfortable. So I just find that very interesting, that I feel like that's clearly something that I need to drop into, is feeling more comfortable in that feminine energy, because like I grew up with my mum being a single mum. And I just saw her just working so hard. She was just struggling all the time. Life was always such a struggle. Life was hard. Life didn't really seem fair. And then I'm just like, oh, I don't want to be repeating that.
So
that same thing.
This way, you know how when you go and have like surgery done, like let's say they'll mark on your body, like if you have knee surgery, they always put an X on the knee that needs the operation, so they make sure that they get the right knee. So here's a highlighter. I want you guys to think about this. So every part of your body that has perpetual pain, I want you to think it about as your soul going and highlighting specific areas, specific lessons that you're supposed to learn in this life.
Interesting.
So your soul is like, so Paula's soul like highlighted the left hip. Like, we got to look at this. I'm going to mark this. I'm highlighting it so that in 20 years, this little area is still highlighted, so she still knows that this needs to be looked at. Now think about it this way. Think about if you were going to take a test, and you had gone back at the beginning of the course and you were highlighting the important information that was going to be on the test, but then before the test came, you decided just to ignore all the highlighted information. You wouldn't pass the test, and you would have to go back and retake the course, right? So every time your body has, especially a perpetual pain, that is a huge indicator of why you came to this earth to begin with, of why you signed up for this class to begin with, because your soul wanted to refine. And so when I see people give me excuses like, I can't exercise because, I have a herniated disc, I'm like, that is literally the point of, that's why you should be exercising.
That's why you need to. Yeah.
Like, that's like saying, oh, I can't write my name because I never learned my ABCs. Well, then let's go learn your ABCs.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think, and this is a big part of the programming. We are programmed to think, okay, yep, I've got a problem. Let's just go straight to the doctor. The doctor will solve it. And I think that this is why we need people like you, Bryce, and me to help share this information, because as I'm learning it, because this is so important, and we need to reprogram ourselves to, instead of always just thinking, yep, okay, we'll go to the doctor. We need to go inwards and learn what is our body teaching to us? What is it communicating with us? And what is our karma that we need to work on? Why are we here? I think they're very, very important lessons. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I will say too, it's if you are not going to be working on your karma, then you're not going to move forward. Like, that's just, you're not going to ascend. Like, that's just, You can't write a novel unless you know how to read, right? Like you can't jump leapfrog to the end, and you're not, and that's soul smashing, right? For you to believe that for whatever reason, for a herniated disc or because you have a bad knee, that you can't exercise, that you've just sold your soul. You smashed your soul. You've given your power away. You've given your power away. There's not one person, and this is what makes me mad too, because I work with people all day, and every single person in my Mysore room at our shala, every single person in there, there's something going on with their body. Not one person in that room has a flawless, pain-free body. And I watch these people come in every single day and sweat and work through it. And then I've got this lazy person on the side saying, well, I can't because I have a hernia. Like, so do half the people in the Mysore shala. They're not complaining. You tell your teacher what's going on. We need to know. Like, I need to know if you have a herniated disc because I need to know how to work with you. Because I'm not gonna go full force. I'm gonna work gently with that area to get it to move, to help you help yourself. And that's also, so that's service to self. So to say that you can't exercise because something is wrong, that is service to self. That's martyrdom.
Because there's always moderations and alterations that
Always.
you can make. I mean,
Always.
if you can't have pressure on your knees, then you can go into a swimming pool and you can literally walk laps in a swimming pool, because when you're in the pool, that takes so much pressure off everything. I mean,
I've taped knees for people before. There's sports tapes. I've taped my shoulder before that helps hold the body into a particular motion so that when you're doing the work, the muscles stay aligned so that they can keep that patterning. And actually, when you're in India, if you walk into the Mysore room in India, which is a room full of muscle, it looks like the Olympics, half the people in there have tape around them,
Yeah, right.
And they're just dealing with it. They're just dealing with it because that's part of, there's never going to be a time in your life where your body there's not going to be something going on with your body. There's always going to be something going on with your body. And so that is not an excuse. That is actually the reason why you should be on your mat or doing whatever. And we're not asking you to go off and be a Olympic athlete. Like Paula said, walking around a pool. It's just moving, getting the body to move. And so when we look at, like, I agree. I think that so we look at the medical staff that we've all seen. I know a lot of truthers think this is bad, and no, it's not. The darkness can't create anything. Only the light can create. Only thing the darkness can do is steal from the light and invert it. So the medical staff is the spine. That's the spine. The two snakes that swirl around the spine are the two nostrils. And the breath. So these are two nadis. These are two different.
I thought it was the Kundalini energy.
Kundalini goes up the middle of the spine, but the nostrils, you'll see it. And I'm going to put pictures up in the editing process. So you have the Ida and the Pingala. These are the two nostrils, are called the Ida and the Pingala. That the two different ones. One's feminine, one is masculine. The left is feminine, the right is masculine, and they come through. So we have like 72,000. Some people say 75,000 nadis. Nadis are like little channels of energy in the body. We only really care about 3 of them. So we have 72 to 75,000. We only focus on 3. The 3 we focus on is Sushumna, the nadi that runs up the spine, the antenna that runs up the spine, and the Ida and the Pingala, which are the 2 nostrils. So the nostrils breathe in the air, and then that chain of energy crisscrosses from the nostrils all the way down the spine, down Sushumna, through the chakras, down to the pelvic floor, and back up again. So that's the medical staff. So when we look at our nostrils, like you look at alternate nostril breathing, during different times of the day, one nostril is going to be breathing clearer than the other. They're going to switch off throughout the day, depending on what time of day it is, what hour of the dosha it is, how that correlates to the different energy cycles in the body, because we are, one thing with Ayurveda, which we want to talk about in our next live call with I do with our students, is you can never be as pure as your environment. That's Ayurveda. We're in balance in the body. So if you live in a city, it's good to kind of eat greasy foods every now and again, because you never want to be purer than your actual environment that you're in, because the different channels have to connect with the environment, because that's what's moving through the body. And so we have alternate nostril breathing. If let's say your right nostril is really clogged and you can't get unclogged, there's different exercises you can do with bringing the fist into the opposite armpit. That's supposed to help unlodge, because the way the channel of energy works. So the body is amazing. The body is
It's
literally the
incredible.
Shakti of the soul. And so when we are looking at that medical staff, that's what we're looking at. This was a symbol that was used by the ancients to heal people because they understood, as we saw with the Cassiopaeans, they knew that there was this sacred light, this sacred fluid. We call it an
Yes.
elixir. In yoga, it's an elixir that runs through the body that is unlocked through the DNA. And every time we clear the DNA, every time we move the body, every time we sweat, we're refining, not just the physical body, but what's held, the junk DNA that's held within it, right? That's why people glow. You see that when people start exercising. When people start exercising, besides weight loss, what people notice about physically, you'll notice is all of a sudden their skin clears up, their eyes clear up, right? That's because the body is releasing toxins, first of all, through sweat. So that's our health, the fascia. And that elixir is starting to move.
Oh,
so you literally see it, right? With people who exercise a lot. If you follow people on social media, I follow a lot of different accounts of like personal trainers and runners. They glow. They have a glow to their skin, and it's because they're constantly moving that fluid. It's not just the blood. It's not just the oxygen, the fresh oxygen coming in. It's also this fluid that the Cassiopaeans were talking about. Now, when my conspiracy comes in, Paula, I do believe that when they stole the staff, the medical, they turned it into the medical staff. They also, when the Rockefellers came in, I'm only going to say their name one time. When they came in, great there, we'll say their sorcery because that's what the PH word means, which we can't see.
Yes.
Shmarmacy, we'll say shmarmakia means sorcery. So they created sorcery in order to shut off the spiritual receptors within the body. So when we do these, or when we believe we can't exercise because we have a herniated disc, you know, God's like, I gave you a herniated disc so that you would actually work on your karma, not just sit there and get fat and lazy and use it as an excuse not to work on your karma. But the medical industry is trained now. I think they have good intentions, a lot of them, but they're trained to put you into a more sedentary existence, which is not.
Which just defeats the purpose. Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking just now while you've been explaining all of that, and I feel like with these different health issues, and you're like saying if you do a little cross and everything, it's almost like it's a little clue that our soul has left for us to say, right, when you get to the other side, you're going to forget everything, you're going to have amnesia, but we're going to leave you little clues to guide you on your path, to help you where you need to work on what you chose to work on in this life. And so we need to go into where we have issues, you know, and that's with healing as well, with healing work, you know. Some people have issues with money. I feel like that's a big thing that my soul chose to work on. Relationships with people, relationship with family members, friends, work people, love relationships. There are so many different levels and so many different things that we have chosen to work on. And the parts that we are challenged in, that's our clues that we need to work on. And so, I love that you're talking about this, Bryce, because I feel like this is so important, that we need to really tap into our bodies and use it as a form of communication, instead of just thinking, oh, I've got a headache again, or my back's hurting, or whatever the issue is. You know, for me, my knees clicking all the time, you know. And it's not just, oh, we'll just accept it because that's just part of getting old. No way. Like, that is a clue as to what we need to work on.
And I will say too, so if you have like a money issue or betrayal issues, whatever it is, if we talked about this before, sometimes when you can't get the mind to change, you then start working on the body, because the body is what's holding the energy and the information. And so if you have money issues and you've tried everything, you've tried all these different things to try to, well, why don't we go down to Muladhara? Why don't we actually go down into your root and start working there physically? You probably have back pain too. figure out where your body's hurting. There's going to be, if you have money issues, there's going to be some sort of connection in your body there where there's pain around that. So if we actually look at that and we strengthen that, and a lot of it is literally simply just strengthening it. Like I would say, Paula, if you were here and you were my student here, I would work so hard getting your hip strong. That would be a huge focus of me for mine. And that's kind of something that I want to talk about too with our little surprise for our audience right now, because I think a lot of times when we look at unlocking our body, I wrote here, unlock your spine, unlock your world. We think just about flexibility. Well, here's the thing, my friends. I don't want you to be flexible. Like flexibility scares the shit out of me. I don't want, when I have students come into my shala who are hypermobile, I get nervous because that means that they are more likely to be injured than any. It is easier for me when I have a student that comes in that's really strong but tight. That's way better. I know they're going to be more solid. So when we look at things like spinal mobility or hip mobility, or we're looking for mobility, not flexibility. Flexibility, we don't want flexibility. What we want is mobility. Mobility is the combination of strength and flexibility. So what we're talking about is actually being able to control the body, to control the flow of energy. So, like at car dealerships when they have those balloons that do this, so that's like in my mind, that's like a flexible person that has no strength. Their energy is just going everywhere. There's no control. But when you are mobile, that means that you have that ability to move the body and move the energy where you're in control of it. And that is you holding your power. Well, first of all, if you watching this video, if you have let's say you have a herniated disc and this has inspired you, if you at the end of watching this video, you go, right, okay, I have a herniated disc. Now I need to take my power back and figure out why. Then we've done our job, because that's a first step in you taking your power back. Now, the second step is you taking your power back is finding a good teacher or a personal trainer that knows about this stuff that's going to help you get the strength to be able to hold the mobility. So when I see people stretch sometimes, for example, I'm going to back up so you can kind of see. You can see my leg. So people, and I got to bend my knees so you guys can see. So if I see people stretching, their foot's kind of just like hanging there and they're just kind of grabbing, that's not doing anything. But when I see people stretch and they've got the foot flexed and they're connecting and they're flexed, that means that the energy is flowing, because with that flexed foot, we've got the calf muscle is engaged.
Right.
The muscles are engaged. That's moving the fluid through the joint of the knee into the leg. If the body's just if the foot's just hanging, look, there's no engagement in the calf right there. But when it's engaged, when it's flexed, we have nothing moves. Look, I'm hitting it, nothing's moving. Yeah. When it's not engaged, it moves. Engaged, nothing's moving. Right? So we want to get the muscles toned and refined so that they can actually pull the energy through the body. Right. So when we talk about spinal health, when we look at backbending is so important. Now, in Ashtanga yoga, we do drop back, stand up. We do so many back bends. For me in my practice, if I counted, I probably do between 150 to 200 back bends in one practice where I am now. Right? So that's a lot of back bending. But the way the Ashtanga, and that's for me, that's not for a beginner in Ashtanga. That's 19 years in for me in one practice. That's all sorts of different back bendings, drop back, stand up. There TikToks, a bunch of stuff that I, after 19 years, you would be doing too. But in the beginning, you're not going to be doing that many. But because we want to build, we were taking this in steps. We're building this in steps. We're building the foundation of the house. My mother is from the coast of South Carolina, and they're famous on the Atlantic coast, and because they get so many hurricanes, where they build houses on top of stilts, right? Mm-hmm. So you have these huge, beautiful houses on top of these stilts. And that's what I think about. We got to build those stilts. We got to make sure the foundation is really rooted before we start to move the spine like a snake. We're able to kind of move it. So what does that mean? Well, backbending really means open stomach, strong core. Right? We also have strong legs. When you push into a backbend, the legs have to hold, the hips have to hold the root of the spine. Yeah. We also have, now one thing too that happens, Paula, with people when they start backbending, especially if they've been sedentary, when you were a child, I want everybody to think back to when you were a little, like Scarlett's age. Happy birthday to Scarlett, by the way. When
Oh,
you were
thank
like
you.
6 years old, right? Like your body, I mean, little Scarlett's body, I mean, little kids, they just move. Like they can
Yeah.
climb trees, they can get on top of bikes and hold their sister's waist and go. Like they're because their body is fresh. Even though they're
Mhm.
coming in with
Yeah.
karma, they haven't had a chance to really challenge that karma yet, so that's still kind of fresh. Well, on the
Yeah.
spine, you have these tiny little muscles that allow the spine to move. That's why Scarlett can climb a tree and like be a little monkey and she doesn't have back pain is because she has these little active muscles, right?
Yeah.
Now, what sadly happens, and this I think is done on purpose, like back hundreds of years ago when kids stayed active, this probably didn't happen as much. But when
Yeah.
we go to school and we learn to sit and we have to sit in a desk all day, and we only have like an assigned play time that's only 30 minutes or so, those little muscles, if you don't use it, you lose it. Those muscles go
Right.
to atrophy, right? So now all
Mhm.
of a sudden, this structural support, this antenna that we have, this quantum antenna, all of a sudden we don't have the structural support anymore to hold that
Wow.
antenna up. So then we start experiencing back pain. Then we go to the doctor and we get medication and we do, and instead of actually just building the foundation back again. So when
Yeah.
people start doing back bending, what tends to happen is you will have a sore back. Your back is going to be sore for a while when you start back bending. That's normal. Just like your biceps get sore, just like your quadriceps get sore.
Yeah.
It's because
Any
those little,
muscle you start working.
but people
Yeah.
panic, right? We've been taught to panic,
Yes.
panic. And it's like, no, you've got these little muscles that you're now this is the resurrection. We just
Yeah.
had Easter, right? You're resurrecting your spinal fluid. You're resurrecting these muscles. You're bringing them back to life. They didn't go anywhere. They just went to sleep. So you're bringing them
Mhm.
back to life, and it's going to be sore. There's going to be soreness.
Yeah.
But that eventually will fade. We also got to get that core strong. The front of in yoga, the back is also considered the core too. But I know when I say core, people think about the stomach.
Yeah.
But we got to get
The
the
stomach.
stomach strong as well, because when we're back bending, what are we doing? We're opening up the stomach. We're
Yeah.
opening up the chest. We're opening up Manipura. I was about to say I shit you not, but literally every time I work with my students on deep back bending, I always at the end of it I say, and when you're sitting on the toilet later today, going to the bathroom, you're welcome. You can think of me. Because that's what's going to release the colon, right? Is pulling of those organs is what's going to
Wow.
trigger the colon. If you're constipated,
Interesting.
it's going to trigger that to release. If you want a flat stomach, if that's something that you really want, do back bends. When I'm
Wow.
consistently working,
And that's good to know for Vatas, because Vatas have a lot of constipation
yep,
issues,
yep,
which has been
that's how
fun
I
for
know.
my whole life. Yeah, that's my whole life. I have had fun with that. So
Back bending,
that's so good to know.
stomach in, you're going to be, when I first started to really consistently practice second series, which is the intermediate series of Ashtanga, which is a ton of back bends. I remember actually being in the bathroom and looking at my stomach, and I've always been thin, but I was like, damn, like all of a sudden I had like a six pack, and it was because of all the back bending I was doing, right? Because the stomach,
Wow.
and especially when you're drop back standing up, when you're dropping back and standing up, the core is
Yeah.
so involved in that, right?
It
It's
would
so
be,
involved.
and the strength involved to go back. Oh my goodness.
Able to pull that, and so that's what you're building up to. You're building, so when we're looking at
Wow.
back bending and spinal health, we're looking at literally the whole body being a function of this one antenna. We see a lot of people in the truther communities talk about these obelisks, they need to come down. What are you talking about? If you're a truther who thinks the obelisk need to come down, then you are asleep. You have fallen for junk conspiracy. The obelisk is that was the equivalent of the
Original.
spine.
Yeah.
It was the
And
J.
that's like an antenna,
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
an antenna, just like your spine.
Yeah.
So if you're out there, I mean, how clever of the bad guys, like how clever of them to infiltrate the truther
Mhm.
community to get you to turn on yourself, to pull
Yeah.
these antennas down when literally as above, so below, that's you destroying your own body. How clever of the bad guys to get you to think that you need to wait for a med bed when
Mhm.
everything you need to have your light body is you really
Is
think
right here.
like, I mean, I know a lot of people in the truther community have a huge faith in God. Do you really think the same God that created the Rocky Mountains and the Great
Just, yeah.
Plains
Just
would
give
give
us a faulty body.
a delinquent body? Like, I mean, Common sense ain't so common. No, any pain you have is literally your body communicating with you so you know how to redirect your own energy. It's your pains in your body is the pain you have is literally your PowerPoint. That's your PowerPoint because that's where you have the information.
Sorry, I just had a thought come up. And I just wanted to ask you, because I remember being a little girl in school, primary school, I don't know, it's probably like 9, 10 years old, and everybody was into gymnastics and everybody was trying to do backbends. I managed to do it once. I managed to do it once from standing to going back. And there was just, for me, there was just so much fear.
Yeah.
So much fear.
There's a ton of things. So like when we work with dropback, so you're not going to kids are different because they're just and their kids are lower to the ground as well. You know, like
even at that age, I just felt an immense amount of fear.
So so actually coming up, you guys going to see in a video, but I have people use the wall, but we also like when you're ready to start coming down to the floor, what we do at AYA and what David Garrigues does is we have these little pads. We get them, we literally go to like Home Depot and get the wall insulation and cut them so they're like rectangles and we stack them like blocks. We put them against the wall, you drop back, remove one, drop back, remove one.
Wow.
This takes over time. You do this over years.
Yes.
And when you finally get to where there's like 2 or 3 pads, that typically means you can drop to the floor. Once people start dropping to the floor, we take a bolster and we put it long ways so that their heads, because what typically happens the first time you drop as an adult is you panic and you bend your elbows and you can hit. So we have a bolster there. So when that happens, your head doesn't hit the floor because it's a panic. Now, in dropping back, once you get to we want to, you don't just want to drop back. We want to lengthen the psoas muscle and get the core as strong as we can so that you're controlled. We can get you to go back to the floor as controlled as possible because at some point you are going to have to bend your knees and just drop. And we want to get you as close to the floor as possible before that happens. So we don't want you like way up here dropping because then you just hurt yourself. So we work with these pads. We work with people with the pads. Now, with that being said, if you never drop to the floor, it doesn't matter. You're still working your stomach. You're still working your back.
Yeah. And that's what's important.
That's what's important.
But yeah, so and obviously you'd want to be doing a lot of core strength in order to do that.
Practices like the Ashtanga practice prepare you for that with the way the practice is set up. But what's most important too is the coming back up. So when you drop down to the floor, then you have to stand up again. And that is incredible leg strength. That takes incredible mola bandha, that perineum strength, the core strength to be able to pull yourself back up again.
Oh, I didn't think about that. I just thought about doing the back bend, but then you've got to get back up.
At the end of the day, going back is actually the easier than actually learning to stand up. It takes a while, and sometimes people get stuck, and that's as a teacher, you have to like pop them back up again. Now, as a teacher, you know, because I work with men, I work with men who are, I'm 5'5". I work with men who are like 6 feet tall and 200 pounds. But the only way I can work with them is that I'm not going to have a beginner do that. I'm going to have them develop their strength over time so that when I am guiding them, they're actually guiding themselves. I'm just popping them. I'm giving that little pop. There's certain pressure points that I can touch in the back when someone's struggling to come up where I don't even have to pull. I can just go behind their back and just pop a certain pressure point that triggers the muscle. So there's these little tricks we learn as teachers too. But with that being said, again, with back bending, it's the vagus nerve. I wrote we all know about the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve runs through the spine, right? It comes down through the spine through up. So if you're not correcting your spine, you're also not correcting your vagus nerve, which is part of one of the main functions of your parasympathetic nervous system, right?
Wow.
And backbending too, like when we backbend, like especially dropbacks, I'm used to doing that with students. That's why I did it to myself. A lot of times we panic, but we're not doing the limbo, we're doing a backbend. So the head, when we're backbending, the head has to go back first, and then the head is the last to come up when we stand up. It's like a slinky. So we look at that parasympathetic nervous system through the vagus nerve, we're opening, and then when we come back up, there's a closing. So we're stretching open that parasympathetic nervous system and that's what I take students, because a lot of times students will panic, and when I'm working with them, I'll take my thumb and place it under their chin to keep their head going back first, and I won't release my thumb until they've stood back up again to make sure the head is staying, because the eyes are the tops of the spine, right? So our eyes are the tops of that actual spine. And where the eyes go is where the energy of the spine goes. So if you're telling your spine, we want to go backwards now, but your eyes are going elsewhere, the
Yeah.
spine doesn't know where it's going in one direction, but it's being directed in the opposite direction. And so as a teacher, that's another job of mine, is to keep the student's head positioned so that they know to keep their eyes positioned properly in the back bend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
Wow.
up dog, for example, which is a back bend. The dressy is your nose. You're looking at your nose and you're dropping your head back because you're opening up the back of the neck while looking at the nose, because the way the eyes direct the energy. But your head, I see people doing up dog with their head like this, and I want to smack them and be like, put your head back. The neck's the part of this too. The neck is you got to really get that neck in there. And so there's so much to this. But with that being said, you guys, what we're going to do is we are going to offer you guys, because as you guys know, we have the Esoteric Academy where we have so much fun, where we do so many classes. The back bend, the spine is just one part of this whole makeup, right? And it's one of the most important parts. So what Paula and I are going to do is we are going to gift everybody a free level 1 40-minute. I've labeled it legs, butts, and back bends, because legs, you want sexy legs and sexy butt, work on your back bends.
I'm going to be doing this one every day.
It's a level 1 backbending class. I do have you work at the wall, and we're going to really prep the body to start figuring out your spine. And so with that being said, it's not just all backbending. We're getting the whole body into this. We're working on the feet, the legs. And so this level 1 free class is going to be free forever. We're going to have it up on RUMBLE. It's going to be on that platform, your channel and my channel. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then we're also going to have it up on the free page of the Esoteric Academy, and I'm sure we'll also put it for our regular students, put it where they can see it easier.
Of course, in the membership area as well. Yeah.
So that they can easier find it. So we're going to have that up now. Now, if you like this class and you want to join us, we're going to give you a special discount code called Shashumna. Shashumna is the naughty that runs up 10. That's your discount code for the ESO. You have to go. I know people are going to ask me, how do you spell Shashumna? If you go over to the RUMBLE, or you go over to and you watch the video, it's right at the beginning, you'll see how to spell Shashumna 10, which gets you 10% off your first month with us.
That's right. Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add to that, Paula? Any?
I'm super excited to do this class because I feel like that this is definitely an area that I need to work on. Definitely is core strength. And yeah, I'm very excited about that. I did want to ask though, so what are your thoughts about working with a gym ball, like the big blown up ones? Do you think they're very helpful or not really?
Yes and no. It's just a tool. A lot of people use them. If you're not engaged, so I want you to again think about the flexibility aspect, right? So if the gym ball is not allowing you, or it's hindering you from actually using your muscles, then don't use it.
Then it's not good. Okay.
Not good. Yeah. So some people will use the gym ball and it will just trigger the muscles to relax. So I don't use any props. This free video that we're giving you, no prop. The only thing I want you to have is a wall. We're going to use a wall. That's it. Because when you're not using props like a gym ball, it's going to force your muscles. Your muscles have to be aware.
And we don't want to become dependent on different props. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, I can send you, Paula. I have a picture of actually a pretty famous picture with David Garrigues where I'm strapped up. It's from over 10 years ago. I'm in a back bend with him, and actually became a famous picture because it got used a lot in like other marketing stuff. I'm sweating my ass off. I can send you the picture. I'll put it up as well. But yeah. So I want you guys to be careful. Now, again, things like gym balls, that kind of stuff. These are tools. That's all they are. They're tools, and so they can either be used to hurt or hinder. So we want to make sure we're using them in a way. And if any type of equipment is like, if you feel like it's an obstruction, like it's stopping you from your full potential, like whenever people use blocks, like we don't use blocks in Ashtanga at all. We don't use a lot of props. Whenever someone grabs a block for like Utthita Trikonasana, I always take it away from them. I'm like, you don't need this. That's just laziness. Like you just don't want to have to engage your muscles. So I'm very particular with prop use. So yeah, And yeah, this particular video is going to always be free, guys. It's always going to be over on the R platform and on our free page. So if this is something that really helps you, you can use it over and over and over and over again. We'd love to have you over on the Esoteric Academy. We are going to be doing our next live class on the Esoteric Academy this Saturday, the 26th, I believe. It's the 26th. At 8 a.m. my time, Eastern time, 8 a.m., where we are going to go deeper into backbending with the students one-on-one there. So if you want to join that class, we do give 7 days of a free membership. So if that's something you absolutely want
to join up and participate.
Yeah. And I hope, Paula, I mean, I come from a school of tough love, like traditional yoga. In traditional yoga, there is no reading of poetry. Like nobody's coddling you. It's tough love. Like they're yelling at you. And that's the
But I feel like that's important with some things. I feel like we do need the tough love. I feel like we need the pain. Like I know your back pain I can imagine it has been horrible to go through. I'm not minimizing that at all. But I feel like we all need those little triggers and pains in our lives, because that's what really motivates us to grow. And I just really feel like it's just really, really important to listen to what our body is trying to communicate with us, and to take the necessary steps. Educate yourself. Knowledge is power, like the Cassiopaean say.
And it's not, don't have mistranslation with the body. The body is trying to tell you, because you have the power. You have the power to fix this. That's why the body is communicating with you.
External things.
Your body is not communicating with your doctor. Your body is not communicating with anybody outside of you. It's communicating with you because you have the power. And I also, too, I think we also, with this whole aging thing, I've been studying a lot about, being in my 40s now. There's so many people that are like, why do people think they're old in their 40s? 40s is still young.
I know.
It's still young.
It's
so
crazy.
We've been trained to think that once we get in a certain area that we're supposed to let the body go. No, I Mariela Cruz, who I just did a video with one of my colleagues, where she's going to come back. We're going to do a follow-up. She's close to 60. She's almost, she's in her late 50s.
Wow.
And look at her. Look at her. I mean, she looks like she's 35, and that's because she works her body. She works it and she works it and she works it. And she's coming from a spiritual perspective as well. And I just really hope, Paula, I hope, if anything, even if the person watching never joins us on the Esoteric Academy, I hope that through these videos, you realize
that they're inspired.
When you're inspired, and you go find a teacher, or you go start to research this yourself, and you realize that you have always, it's like the end of The Wizard of Oz, where she goes, "You've always had the power, my dear. You've always had it." And
even if you just start off just walking 5 minutes down the street every day, that is incredible. That's all you need to do, is just getting the body moving. But you've been a huge inspiration to me, Bryce, so thank you. I really appreciate it.
I've had inspiring teachers myself, and I got to the point, Paula, I'm stubborn. So I got to the point where my body hurt so bad where I basically was like, fuck this. I'm taking, and that's why pain is important, right? And Todd has said that pain is important because that's what's going to get you to change.
Yes.
If you believe you're supposed to be living on this planet pain-free, you're on the wrong planet. You're in the wrong course.
Yeah.
Like, pain is necessary. Suffering, that's part of the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism, that suffering exists. And it's because if we didn't suffer, we would never change. We would never.
That's
right. And so see your weaknesses as actually your strong points. That's where the power point is. And with this, again, I want to reiterate, if you're new to exercise, it's okay to sweat. We want you to sweat. You need to sweat, and you need to be uncomfortable. If you get uncomfortable in this video, good. That's the point.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. The biggest difference between a more experienced student and a beginner student is their ability to handle the discomfort. More experienced students are able to handle they expect it. They're calmer on their face when they face it, because they know that it's coming and they know that's part of it. So I guess.
And I love that you remind us of that in the videos too, because it's easy to forget when you're in the middle of it and you're just like, oh, I just want it to end now. But then you remind us, and I love that, because it's so important.
It's
so worthwhile. And then afterwards you just feel so good. Your body just feels so good.
you see me sweating in all these videos. If somebody's sweating, then they're uncomfortable. If you're sweating, so anybody that's sweating on a video, they're, even if they don't look like, they're uncomfortable. There's a burning happening. And I will tell you guys, I shot that video at, I think I started filming at 2:45 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah. So if I can get, I mean, I've done this for years now. I shot that video, and then I did another practice, my own practice, and then I taught a class. So,
Wow.
and I'm 42. So if I can do that after 19 years, if I am physically, and then I was telling Paula, I went to watch a friend defend his dissertation for his thesis for his PhD, and I got an Uber there, but we decided to walk back, and it was like a 7-mile walk, which is over 10K. So that was all in one day for me. So if I could be at that level of being able to do that at 42 with 5 herniated discs,
that's incredible.
if I can do it, anybody can do that. I think that's what makes me so frustrated, Paula, because I just want to shake people and be like, why are you giving your power away? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
Because there's no excuse you could give me. I will say this one story, I think before we sign off. There was a girl who practiced Ashtanga like me, and she got into a terrible accident. I can't remember what happened to her, but she was in like a full body cast in the hospital, so she literally couldn't move her body.
Wow.
And there was an article written about this girl years ago, because every morning she would wake up at the time that she would typically wake up to go practice, and she would lay in her bed and she would mentally breathe through her practice, like see herself doing her full, and actually inhale, ekam, inhale, arms up, dway, exhale. And she would see herself, and she would breathe through the practice while laying there. She intentionally did that. Her recovery, there was an article written because she recovered so quickly from this accident. And that was what she did. So even for people who are in a fucking wheelchair who can't move,
yes, you can still
engage.
Yes. I mean, a lot of athletes do this. They will spend, there's been studies done where they will spend just as much time sitting in the chair, visualizing doing the exercise and the training as doing the physical training. And apparently they have even better results because doing it mentally as well. And you know what I find? I find that when I'm really not like struggling to be motivated, when I actually visualize myself like jogging or like in my gym clothes and really working and like really working out, that actually motivates me to want to get up and start doing it.
It's the point where you just kind of do it like Nike. Just do it, like, because most days I wake up, I don't really particularly want to do it either, but you just kind of,
of course not, but you just do it.
And you're going to feel better when you're done. Especially days that I travel, when we travel early, I'll get up even extra early because I know I'm going to have so much better travel if I've done my practice before I get in the car or the airplane. And so that's important to me. Do something your future self will thank you for. And so yeah, and it's it's not forever. This too shall pass. Like when you're in that heightened pain of exercise, it's not going to last. The real intense parts in yoga at least last 5 breaths. That's 30 seconds. Not even, so it's like, as one of my friends in Ashtanga used to say, hit it and quit it. There's one thing we can learn from the frat boys: hit it and quit it. Like that possibility of doing it, just do it. Just hit it and quit it. Like once, stop thinking about it and just do it. And it's done.
Just do it.
And yeah, so it's have you ever walked by a gym and you see people practicing or working out and it starts to motivate you? That person is contagious.
Absolutely.
It's contagious. And so and there's a reason why you're drawn to it. It's because your energy wants to be unlocked. Your body wants that. It's urging you to do that. And so
it's in our human nature.
Yeah.
Our human nature is meant to do this. Yeah.
And I don't care how old you are. I don't care. You can turn this ship around. If you're still breathing, you can turn this ship around. Absolutely, you can take your path. If you're still alive, you're not dead. I say all the time, dead men can't sweat. Like this uncomfortableness is actually you being alive. And we spend so much time trying not to die that we forget to actually be alive and be in our body and be in the here now moment. And so I just think there's not been any situation in my 42 years in my career where I've ever seen somebody come into a practice and not have their life changed and not have something spectacular happen to them in their work and their effort. The Yoga Sutras say that you have to put effort into this. There has to be effort made. And 19 years of doing this and of being in this industry, of the thousands and thousands of bodies that I've seen, not one person has looked worse from doing this work.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Benefited everyone. And so yeah. So if you have any questions, guys, ask us in the comment section. We'd love to have
Yeah.
you. Shashumna 10 is your discount code if you want 10% off your first month with us. And to watch the free, or to do the free video, follow the link over to RUMBLE or to the Esoteric Academy. And
Yep.
and yeah. Is there anything else? And Paula's links will be also in the description box on my channel as well. So is there anything else you
Yeah.
want to say, Paula, before we?
No, I'm just super excited. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you all in the comments and let us know what you think. And please share it. Please share it with anybody who wants this information, wants to learn about how important this is.
So important.
So,
And I will say too, one last thing before we sign off. If you have back issues and you need some guidance, you can ask me in the comment section. I'll try to help you as best I can. Obviously, it's best that you find a teacher in your area if it's acute, if there's an acute trauma there, but I can also help you across the internet waves as best I can. If that's if you feel overwhelmed by any back pain, just let me know and I'll be more than happy to try to help you as best I can from being apart. So yeah. So, all right, you guys. Well, enjoy the class. Follow the links below for the free class, and we will see you we'll see our Esoteric Academy students on Saturday. We'll be sending the links out. If you can't make that class Saturday, we always re-upload it later. We're going to be going deeper into backbending in that class. So anyway, all right. Well, we'll talk to you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.